Welcome everybody to this regularly scheduled board meeting of the South Tahoe PUD. Would everyone please join me in the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I thought about that.
It was in there.
Okay, do we have any comments from the audience on non-agenda items? I don't see an audience, so do we have any corrections to the agenda or consent calendar?
I move that we adopt the agenda and consent calendar as written.
I'll second that.
All right, that passes 5-0. Okay, wastewater treatment plant emergency generator replacement project.
Good afternoon. So I am here today to request the board to waive the minor deviations found in the apparent low bidder and award the wastewater treatment plant emergency generator project to the lowest responsive responsible bidder, Cal Electro Incorporated, in the amount of $6,136,545. So before we get to that, I'll give you some background on the project and the bid process and how that all played out. So on November 13th, we did have our pre-bid meeting. We had 11 general contractors show up, which was a promising sign that we were going to get a lot of bids and hopefully good bids on this project. As you may recall, the project is to replace our emergency generator, the main one that sits out right on Meadowcrest as you drive in. That one is not in compliance with current air quality regulations and has to be replaced by January 1st, 2020. It also includes replacing the diesel motor in our emergency pump station, which also is not in compliance with the air quality regulations and also would need to be replaced. We also included the breakpoint chamber demolition, which is one of the parts of the treatment plant that is still original or very close to original. It's old. It is in danger of falling apart, and it literally would prohibit us from discharging wastewater if that were to happen. So we see these three pieces of the project as very critical to the operation of the treatment plant and our continued compliance with regulatory requirements. So we did open bids on December 14th. We got only 3 bids. And they ranged from $6,136,545 to $7,327,750. There is an attachment to the agenda item showing the bid report, basically from engineering that Heidi has put together, and went through the deviations and discrepancies within the bids and did not find anything material within those, just 2 minor ones in the apparent low bidder. And we also reviewed the requirements for the disadvantaged business enterprise good faith effort, which would be required if we do receive a FEMA grant, which I'll talk about a little bit later. All of the bidders were in compliance with those requirements as well. So since the engineer's estimate for this project was around $4.6 million, obviously the low bidder of $6.1 million is a significant difference from that. So we did evaluate the bid results and considered 4 things, and they're in the agenda packet, but I also have some additional items to discuss with each one of those. So the first one was where the bid price is reasonable. And we looked at several factors. We looked at the bidding climate. We looked at costs of electrical work throughout the industry, because this project is heavily electrical, the bids that were received, and the comparison of the bid to the engineer's estimate. So what we see from the bidding climate is, like I said, we had 11 generals at our pre-bid meeting, but only 3 bidded. From talking with some of them that didn't choose to bid, it's because they had other work. They didn't need this work. So we are seeing that contractors are busy, and that can obviously impact our prices. We talked to our consultant who did the estimate, And they said that they have been seeing rising costs for electrical work in the Bay Area. They hadn't seen it in other parts of California yet, but that doesn't mean that we're not starting to see that. The bids that we did receive were all high, basically. So that leads us to believe that the actual cost of the work is reflective of the bids that we received, and the estimate was actually a low estimate. And the final point on this, in comparing it to the engineer's estimate, we had 58 bid items as part of this project. For 57 of them, if you took that total, we were right on line with the engineer's estimate. There was one item that really was the outlier, and that caused this major discrepancy, and that was the electrical work. So the second point was we looked at, can the scope of the project be reduced? And as I mentioned, we have some regulatory requirements for air quality with these motors on both the generator and the emergency pump station motor that really, if we took either one of those out, we would potentially violate those. So the one aspect that we looked at was, well, could we get rid of the breakpoint chamber and maybe defer that till later, and what would that impact be? The main one of the main points was that deferring this work until later does have impacts on the ability to perform other work at the treatment plant. Looking at the CIP, we've got a plant paving and drainage project, a wastewater treatment ballast ponds project, and the secondary clarifier rehab project that all occur in the same vicinity as the breakpoint. And in fact, a couple of those projects, the breakpoint work needs to be done before we could actually do those projects, so that we have reliable ways to move wastewater through the plant. So it basically has this ripple effect. If we delay that one, we're delaying all these other ones as well, or impacting them at least. And looking at the bid that we got, because we did have the breakpoint was a separate bid schedule, and it was in line with the engineer's estimate. And if we delay it, we're risking obviously seeing higher bids, especially if the bidding climate is still changing and becoming a tighter bidding climate where we're seeing rising costs. For point 3, it was what are the impacts to the 10-year CIP? Obviously, if we've got to find $1.5 million, something gets bumped, something gets deferred. And so looking at it, the project that's at the end of the 10-year CIP right now that gets bumped is a project that is called the Sewer Replacement Priority 2 projects. These are replacement projects for gravity sewer system that were identified in our collection system master plan, but they address projected deficiencies only, not actual deficiencies that would show up at our build-out condition in a 25-year wet weather event, 25-year storm event. So they're not actual deficiencies at this point. Depending on future development, they may come forward, they may not. But so that's obviously to us a lower priority project, and we feel comfortable that that bumping that will mitigate the effects to our 10-year CIP. And then the last item on here was, can we work with the contractor to value engineer the project to reduce costs? I have had discussions both with the Cal Electro, the low bidder, and Thomas Hayne Company, the second low bidder, on items that were potential value engineering items. And we have identified a handful, I'd say about 3 or 4 that are potential. Haven't gone further on those yet, just because needed to get everything squared away still on whether or not we're going to award and where we're going forward with this. The dollar value that we're talking about could be anywhere from only $50,000 to $250,000. So while it is definitely a savings and it is something we will continue to look at throughout the project, it is not going to get us back down to the original engineer's estimate. And then lastly, the last point I want to point out is we have applied for a grant from FEMA for pre-disaster mitigation funding in the amount of $1.2 million. We currently have a $5 million loan that we have secured that Paul has talked about previously, and we got a very good interest rate on that. And with this $1.2 million grant, if we do receive that, that does basically cover the entire cost of the project at this point. we won't know that until, there's 2 of them that we've actually applied for. We'll know about 1 in February and 1 in April. So we won't know that for a while, but that is something that's out there that could actually allow us to not have to really change our 10-year CIP. So with that, I will take any questions.
I always have one, it seems like. When I read through the packet, I got a little sticker shock, but I also wondered if our generator is in decent shape except for the emissions, whether there's a possibility of a scrubber.
It's not.
Okay, well, that's good.
But it did work in our last meeting.
I mean, it worked last winter, and we were very happy to see that. But there's also safety concerns with it. The gear is very old. It's not in compliance with electrical code either, and that was a big push from both our former electrical supervisor and the current one to get that replaced out of safety concerns.
Those were something I pushed for when I was on before, and in my mind, they were just built yesterday. So I've tried to adjust to that.
And Cliff is here. I don't know, Cliff, if you want to speak to any of this as far as that generator is concerned.
The problem with that generator particularly with the engine, the engine runs fine. It'll run for many years. It's a 2-cycle diesel. So it's a very highly polluting diesel. Remember old freight trains and stuff like that? There's a smoke billowing out.
Motorcycle.
Same thing.
That's cute.
So there's no aftermarket device that can be put on that to clean it up that would last. It would just plug up almost immediately. As you spoke with the electrical is sketchy to say the least in that system there. You know, and we've been trying to push for this generator replacement for a number of years on this now.
Okay. I trust you. I trust you too.
It's just getting down to the wire. And the Air Board was here. We just tested all of our generators, you know. Everything out in the field works great. You know, there's no issues with our generators we've got out there. They all passed well. I have a hard time getting past the old ones in the plant. Being that one, the EP pump, it's a V12 diesel cat motor. It's old, it's the dirty one, and the motor for the blower. But
now the break point it's called. I actually am not familiar with that.
So the breakpoint chamber is it's where we used to do chlorination in the plant.
Oh yeah, when we had where you could drink out of it and all that.
So it's literally just kind of right down in front of the hypochlorite building. It's a concrete chamber that's in the ground, and all the flow from the clarifiers flows through that chamber before it gets to our final pumps. So if that chamber were to catastrophically fail, we don't have a way to get flow out of the plant.
Why not put a pipe through it?
But that's what we're going to do.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
I think this is something I don't think we can put off any longer. We've been just putting it off too long, and we need to go ahead. Is there any value to that old diesel? I'm sure we can't sell it in California, but can we sell it?
I have actually gotten several calls from many people wanting to know what we're going to do with it. Currently, the way the contract is written, the contractor is to dispose of it. That being said, that doesn't mean that we can't change that and talk to them about and negotiate that out.
I'd hate to give it away personally, because we could get some good money for that. Mines would eat it up.
That's something you can negotiate with the contractor, though,
Yes.
if it does have value.
Yes.
Often, I think in bidding these contracts, also the contractor takes that into consideration.
That's what I'm wondering. if
Is
they've
what his
already-
recycling cost is for that. Can he make money off of those
Take a
products?
shot.
That might have been part of the bid, though.
That's
It's
what I would
possible,
expect it to
right?
be.
So we would need to talk to them about that and see what impact that could have.
All right, well, we've been discussing this for quite a while, and I understand Paul is cautiously optimistic with FEMA.
Yeah, just one little bit of clarification on the FEMA grants that Steve mentioned. There are 2, and individually they are each $1.2 million. So we truly do have 2 chances through the grant system to offset the entire difference in the cost.
Well, unless you can come up with another 1.2 million you want to spend, Paul. Get the books. Okay, well, I know that Richard, sorry, go ahead.
Just as added information, I happened to be reading one of the Carson Valley newspapers yesterday, and at their North Valley's treatment plant, they just bid on a project. Bids came in at $9 million, about 25% over the engineer's estimate. They only got 3 bids, and the low bidder was Resource Development Corporation, which we see a lot here, and second low bidder was KG Walters. So we're not missing anybody who's out there in the area bidding projects. So they were going to scramble to come up with the money, and they were talking about awarding the project even though it was over budget. And most of that work was non-electrical. This is the pond system down there.
All right. Thanks. This is a big project. There's a big price tag to it, but I've been following this for a long time, and I know though you guys on ops have been following it forever, and I agree with everybody here. Something has to be done. So.
And that safety issue always comes up too. That bothers me.
I do think it's interesting that the backup generator came on and got us through our last meeting. I don't know if you guys know that.
A lot of safety items. They put a trap door in the units so they could escape out the bottom.
And it's only killed a few squirrels so far.
So if there are no more questions, then I would request that the board waive the minor deviation in the bid and award the contract for the wastewater treatment plant emergency generator replacement project to Cal Electro Incorporated in the amount of $6,136,545.
I'll move that.
Give that. You want to second that, Kelly?
Yes.
Okay, we'll give that to Jim and Kelly second.
Thank you.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Next up, we have the Alta's sewer pump emergency repair replacement. As I was just about to say, you don't look like Chris.
No, I don't. Thank you.
A compliment, and I didn't even know I was giving you one.
Yes, for sure.
Don't get that rented coat either.
Nope. Take me as I am. Buck McClelland, I'm acting supervisor right now through the pumps crew, and have been dealing with this issue at Altal Boulevard. Just wanted to give you a quick update. We have gone forward with the rebuilding of the existing pump. The purchase order was sent, and the parts are on order. A little bit of a delay getting parts from the manufacturer due to the holidays. They were actually closed for 1 week solid. But according to Reed Electric, they are moving forward with that, and hopefully should have it back within a couple weeks. Complete. We've got a price from Reed Electric for the replacement pump that was warranted for the extra pump. I've also reached out to a company out of Fairfield called Xylem to get a second price to make sure that we're in line with that price Reed's given us. They had not gotten me back that price yet, so that's kind of where we stand with the Reed Electric's price totals between the repair and the price of the new pump. Our total is $100,897.78 with tax, and we had to extend the cabling. They had bid it with a 50-foot cable, and we needed a 100-foot. So that's where we're at on that right now.
That's the 26 plus thousand plus the 63 plus thousand.
Yeah, it came out to
An extra 50 feet of cable. About right.
The price on the Reed pump was with the 100-foot of cabling on it, $68,747 plus the tax of $4,984.
Just curious, we kind of left it up in the air. Did you buy what horsepower did you buy on that? There
Oh,
was
we went to a 90 horsepower.
went to a 90?
Yeah, yeah.
And it can substitute for the 100 if necessary?
Yes, there's engineering went through the pump curves on those, and it's about a 200 gallon per minute difference between the 100 and the 90s. So it's very kind of minuscule comparative. So, but the 90s will fit in all 3 chambers there. And also I met with Steve, and we're looking at the potential for these same pumps to be used in other Big 5 sewer stations in their redesign and rebuild.
So no problems over the weekend, big weekend?
No, everything went real well.
Great.
Yeah,
What was the
everything.
flow? Do you know what the flows were?
Ken actually has the numbers.
Well, and we know there was no I&I, so these are probably pretty good numbers.
Yeah.
Our average was, actually, our high on December 31st was 4.78 gallons per day. Everything else was below that, 4.5, 4.1 on January 2nd. And the average, I believe, was about 4.5, 4.57. And that is very miserable. What we've seen probably in the last 5 years. So we're on pace for where we've been.
Okay, so on this, we've already approved that purchase of the and the rebuild. So all we need to do is do the continuing.
Since our prices have come in about
800.
800.
Yeah.
We didn't put an upper end on it.
We had estimated 100,000.
Yeah, we okay, right.
How many dollars more? Richard can approve that.
Well, just in case something else happens or we discover something else.
We
replacing
just
it.
need to continue the emergency.
You've let us know, so.
Okay.
Plus, I was expecting to get a second price on the pump.
Yeah,
It's
so
confirmed,
that
so
could be lower, and it could put us underneath that $100,000 cap.
We'll continue to report on this. So we're done.
Okay. Thank you.
I will move that we continue emergency action to repair Tahoe sewer pump number 2 and purchase an additional pump pursuant to resolution 3075-17.
I'll second that.
And that passes 5-0. Payment of claims.
I'll move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $898,007.46.
Second that. And once again, 5-0. Standing and ad hoc committee reports. I have a question. Do we have one scheduled with the city?
We have one scheduled for next Friday.
It's next Friday?
Yes.
Did I get an email on that? No. Okay, yeah, if you could remind us.
Sure.
And it's at the city this time, right?
What time, 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
Okay.
And right now, what I have on there to talk about is a snow globe debriefing, and then a discussion of the drainage issue at the Pioneer Trail and Mobile Home Park.
Okay, I wanted to add on there an issue that I've talked to you about is the drainage over here by Pinter and Sierra Boulevard. The party that contacted me that I told you about that mentioned that has also talked to Brook Lane now.
Oh.
And so I thought that it might be good to know that we're both looking at that same thing. For those of you guys who don't know, we have a yard over there on the block. What's the block this side of Pinter? Fountain.
Yeah.
And it's probably about 100% coverage. And with the large amount of water that we had last winter, there was a kind of flooding, localized flooding in that neighborhood, and one of the neighbors kind of thought that, obviously it wasn't our fault, but thought a lot of water was running off of that lot and contributing to the water, and the thought was to try to, they're doing a huge project there anyway, the city is to try to make sure that we take care of anything that needs to be taken care of at this point, so.
And just so you know, the drainage issue with the Pioneer Trail Mobile Home Park was one of the 3 places last year that we actually lost water escaped out of our collection system because there was so much water coming down and collecting at the lower end of the trailer park, and within the storm drain that runs underneath the trailer park was probably 90% blocked and plugged up. But there was nowhere for the water to go. The water started backing up in the trailer park, backing up the neighboring streets, and people were popping clean-out covers and all kinds of things, trying desperately to drain the stormwater off their property. And it was putting so much water into our collection system, we literally had to go upstream and set up bypass pumps and pump around the area, because downstream of the mobile home park, water was coming out of the top of our manholes because of all the stormwater getting into the system. So we had these temporary hoses running down in front of the Myers Elementary School for all the parents.
We just sort of had inadvertently found out about it.
Yeah, and where it started was somebody called you. Remember?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. They called me and said, "You got to help us."
Yeah, and then you called me, and I called in early because I was actually back east at a conference. It was 9 o'clock back there, so I was called in at 6 o'clock and said, let's get whoever's ever on underground repair, sewer on call, get him in here early, get out there, and let's take a look. And we set up
their clean-outs.
Yeah, that's what was going on. So what the city staff has in response is they said the storm culvert under the mobile home park is on private property, and so they won't clean it, even though to our understanding that the stormwater pipe is connected to the drainage upstream and upstream and downstream on either side of the mobile home park to the city, the rest of the drain system in the city. But because that culvert's on private property, they won't go in and clean it. That's the response we've gotten from the city staff. So I want to bring that up to the city council and ask for their help and their advice and hopefully their direction to let's get in there and clean the thing. And otherwise if we have a repeat of this big heavy storms, we're going to have a repeat of the flooding, repeat of the people
You never know.
Popping their clean outs. And
in addition to the culvert underneath the mobile home park issue there, I think is also the drainage downstream, which was a stream rehabilitation project that was done previously and hasn't been necessarily maintained, and I think has probably silted in to some extent and is also causing a backup. So it's causing backwater to limit the flow that can come out of that culvert.
Yeah, and I think that the response was by the city is that that's on a Forest Service owned lot, and so they can't get on it and repair or do work on it.
Yep. So you got you have the poorest in our community being flooded out because we can't get out of the way and make it happen, or government can't get out of the way and make it happen.
Well, thank you guys for working on it.
So if you have any other topics you want us to talk about.
Ask them where all the turf went.
That'll be on the snow globe. I didn't bring that up because I knew Dwayne would.
I think my kids had half put on their shoes.
What a mess.
Your kids went to snow globe?
They did.
Oh, okay.
I even dropped my kids off in front of Stupid. It was very well organized in front of the plant here.
One of mine used to go to Meth Fest, but we cut that out.
You disowned him.
Yeah, well, we put a stop to it, I'll tell you that. Came
Actually, I don't
weird in
think
the
the
eyes.
district has an official position on the turf or education.
Yeah, but I know this subject will come up, so it's okay.
I can give you a list of chuck holes
I won't do it now.
around town that need to be
I'll
fixed.
erase it.
Just ask them where it went.
I'm just curious.
Supposedly they claim the city's making a lot of money on snow globe.
I'll
Maybe
tell
they've
you,
used the money to fill the potholes.
Richard,
you know?
I've talked to business owners through the chamber, and most of them, like the motel owners, were pretty happy because they're demanding 3 and 4 day minimums. But I used to run motels. I had 6 of them that I used to run, and we already did that anyway, and we were already jammed at New Year's. And then when I worked in restaurants, like when I was helping run Caro's, we could not, under any circumstances, handle the amount of people. They'd have to wait 4 hours to get breakfast all over town. But I was with the city. I was at the city council when they brought up, and they said, "Are we making money?" And this guy says, "Yeah, I have a consultant friend of his who did a study, and he says you're making $14 million." Okay. Nobody read through the study or challenged it, and they asked him again that, "Are we making money?" He says, "Yeah, you're probably making $6 million." So they asked a couple of innocuous questions, and then he asked for $50,000, and they gave him $50,000. And so they're, oh well. Anyway, if they moved it to another location and a different time of the year, it'd probably be just fine, be a good event, I guess. If that's the kind of people we want in our VHRs disturbing the neighbors who are already mad, you're all right. Otherwise, I have no opinion.
Well, it's a good thing that we don't have anything to do with that.
Yeah,
Dwayne.
it is good.
Let's just move on while we're behind, because I know that our friends at the city council are watching this.
It's not utility district business, except for the zombies that try to cross our property. Did we have anybody?
There was a bunch on the first night. There was a crowd, right?
Yeah.
About 30.
I think there were about 30 who were observed. That I think their count was about that. So there's probably others that were not, that they didn't actually see. So they had that on Friday night. They had about 30 people come in, and operations staff were running around trying to get them out and keep them safe. At the Snow Globe, folks had, as requested, they had placed one individual down at the turnaround before Meadowcrest right out here, and then another one by the back gate, although that person was stationed farther down towards the intersection to the ball fields. And that was fine for directing people at the turnaround and keeping them from driving up here, but it was really unsuccessful at keeping people from stumbling up here and crawling under, or maybe crossing the fences and then trying to cross the fences on the backside, which is how these folks got into the plant. Our staff, our operations staff, attended the meeting, their planning meeting the following day, and told them what was going on and that we needed more help, and they did provide it. They ended up providing 5 people. I think they had 2 out front, 1 down at the turnaround, 1 at the gate up here to make sure people didn't come in, try to slide under our gate over here, and then they had 3 people, as I understood it, in the back area there, a couple people out in the woods to keep them from climbing over the fence, and then monitoring the gate as well. And that was actually tremendously successful, and worked on Saturday night and then Sunday night. We had much less people into the plant. It was much more reasonable. Unfortunately, on Sunday night, it's my understanding that once the music was over, those security and the police pretty much left, and that they didn't get rid of the crowds, and people came down here and congregated on Meadowcrest, and we had some problems. We ended up having to call the police back for people doing basically in physical altercations and fighting, and people passing out on the side of the road and things like that.
Fun for the whole family.
What's that?
Fun for the whole family.
Fun for the whole family, and my expectation, the operations staff are going to do some write-ups and make sure we document the kind of minimum staffing that we need for next year and what the plan needs to look like.
I think it'd be really easy to judge whether it makes money or not. You compare the TOT and sales tax and gross receipts, those kind of things, to what we had before they were here. A year or 2 before, you get a pretty good idea. But that's that.
Okay, is there any other standing or ad hoc committee reports?
Appointments for next meeting.
Oh yeah, that's next meeting. Everyone got one of these, and this is what we're currently serving on. if you want to change, or if you don't like what you're doing, or you want to take additional responsibilities, let me know, and we'll juggle these around for next meeting.
I need to get out to Alpine County. I haven't done that. So take a fishing pole.
Well, if you call Jim, he'd be happy to take you
Yeah.
out there.
I will.
At a convenient time for you and him.
What's his last name? Jim. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I'll do it.
All right. Board member reports. Anybody have anything? Okay.
I just have one small one. I didn't know if you probably read CalPERS is thinking of kind of punting on this huge debt that they believe they're going to have in our state for, to require cities and counties to come up with to fund their employees in special districts. They're thinking of assuming over the next 25 years their financial outlook an 8% return on their investments. And by doing that, it would make
it all
everything
goes away.
fit in the box. They did that the prior 10 years and were woefully wrong.
They're going the other direction with the return rate. Weren't they lowering it?
Well, no,
Yeah.
they did lower it, but now they caught so much flack.
Or they want to just change the number?
Yeah, you might want to Google
Well,
it. and
they
see.
had one good year. Things are looking good after this past year.
Yeah, which president was that?
Paul, isn't there a
The other one. Well-
webinar coming up on that? I thought I forwarded.
What is it?
Oh, no.
Different topic? Oh.
Stock market.
Dwayne, was this just something they floated out there, or they actually?
No, I read it in
they
the
actually
newspaper
got-
is all. And they said that people are pretty upset about it because you can't go can you go 10 years out and be accurate? You can't go.
Well, I want to know.
We
where
can,
they-
yes, but no.
I want to know whether they're getting 8% for 10 years, because I want to put my money there.
We'll keep our eyes open for it, yeah, but they did ratchet it down to the 7%, which had a huge impact on rates, as we all know. But yeah, we'll keep our eyes open. If we see anything come through, we'll absolutely let you know.
Yeah, you probably get some sort of announcement from somebody, but that's what I read, and I thought it was that people are saying, well, they're just punting, they're just putting this problem off, and it'll be much bigger. As it is, it was a huge blow to cities. It's just scaring them to death and causing our city to try to raise taxes and things. So, and then I was just wondering if we had heard anything from TTD as to whether they're going to guarantee in writing that they're going to leave our stuff alone.
We're still waiting for the final EIR report to come out, which is supposed to list every single comment they received on the EIR with their response to it. And if you remember, we actually showed you in previous correspondence and stuff where they had made that promise. But we want to see it attached to part of the EIR, because that's where the public comments are all made and all need to be responded to. And we still don't have a schedule for the issuance of that the draft final EIR.
Okay.
Okay, if there are no other board member reports, how about what's up with the El Dorado County Water Agency Purveyor?
Nothing.
Nothing?
We have a
Kinda
meeting.
quiet over the holidays.
Yeah, we didn't have a meeting in December, so we have one
So
this coming week.
next Wednesday.
So, yeah,
Okay.
haven't seen an agenda.
The agenda we usually get tomorrow.
All right. Richard, do you have a report for us this time?
Just a couple of work items. They didn't think they were going to be in the new office
Because of
yet
the
because of the phones. So I'm guessing that the meeting is going to be in the old office. The El Dorado County Water Agency is moving their office into Placerville. So it'll save us about 10 minutes or so every time we drive down there. I guess that's part of it.
Better than nothing.
Better than nothing, yeah. But it'll make them closer to downtown Placerville, closer to the county offices, but not in the county offices, which I think is probably a good thing. And I guess they're saving money on rent. So, just a couple of items. Lynn sent us an email basically indicating that all of our winter storm numbers are in, that we've obtained grants from FEMA for $559,000, and our insurance rebate of a little over $78,000 to pay for our damages from last winter's storms. So that was as a result of the hard work of the staff and gathering all the information for Lynn to submit it. So that was good news. And just an item on water consumption. December's usage was 15.3% less than December of 13, and even 6.2% less than last December, which surprised me because I thought we would have been using more water for snowmaking in December than last year.
Have it had the temperatures?
Yeah, maybe it wasn't cold enough. So, other than that, that's it for me.
Any other staff or attorney reports?
Good idea. So Gary just reminded me about an issue that just came across through Aqua. There's a court case that Aqua is filing an amicus brief in to support I believe it's the city of Glenwood. They had a challenge to their 218 process, and a bunch of it we don't care about, but the issue that was upheld by the lower court that gives us great concern and is being appealed by Glenwood is that they were saying that under 218 they cannot use rates to support the firefighting infrastructure or firefighting water supplies for firefighting, which obviously for us would be a big issue and a big impact on our rates and our 218 and how we protect this community from fire. We're paying attention. We're watching. We're going to watch that pretty closely. I'm going to contact the attorney with Aqua who is writing the amicus brief and talk with him about how we as a district can support it, and should we be submitting a letter, should we be signing on, are there other entities that we should be contacting to try and get support positions submitted for this, and one of our thoughts was the firefighting community as well would probably benefit. They're probably unaware of this issue, but it could be, depending on how the appeals court rules on it, it could be pretty devastating for our rate structure and how we pay for firefighting infrastructure here in the future.
The reason they're saying under Prop 218 you can't include those type of costs in your rate is that it's open to the firefighting service, water infrastructure. It's available to the entire general public, not just to your customers. For example, a vacant lot that can have fire service, used to suppress a fire. If a house has a well, not a customer of the utility, the fire service is still available to that. So, I mean, there is some logic in the Superior Court decision, but the effect, as Shannon said, could be pretty devastating, especially for special districts. Cities, if the city has a utility, the city could actually use some of their general fund money to provide dollars for the upsizing or putting in infrastructure for firefighting, whereas special districts don't have that.
Yeah, but the thing is, we do have other sources of income like property tax, but then you get that whole fungibility thing.
Your property tax is dedicated to your
to the wastewater only,
We're not really mandated to provide for fire protection. It's the city or the county. Can we get them to take it over, or we can?
Well, we were kind of joking a little bit about this. The county said you need contribute funds so the district can provide infrastructure for fire.
We know the end of that story.
Might want to bring that one up at your meeting.
Yeah, we can add that to the list. Yeah.
Actually, you should add that to the list and let them know that's out there because.
Oh.
Well, and let them
Well,
know
because that's if this does hold up this way, they will be on the hook for that if they want it.
And just off the top of your head, what do you think the total dollars for us would be?
Several years ago, there was a report generated by Municipal Financial Services, MFS, and they developed the capacity charge for fire lines for this district. And at that time, it was determined that 36% of the water system was, or the system was oversized by 36% to provide fire suppression.
Right.
And so if you applied that basically to our rates and said, okay, well, approximately $3.6 million of the revenue we collect on the water side is for firefighting. So if we had to remove that, then we'd have to send the city a bill every year for $3.6 million.
Yeah,
Do you approve?
yeah.
Yeah, they would spend it wisely.
Good luck on collecting there. For the return payment.
I don't know.
Well,
Well,
we've
it-
just been a
probably
good
the-
neighbor because we have the water
And
system.
so,
but
so
it's
this
not
really
our-
comes down to not a policy matter like it should be. It comes down to a court case.
The state court, right?
Yeah, around
It's a state court, and then it would be appealed to the Ninth Circuit.
And we're not allowed to have any kind of a rate increase that
federal
isn't
now.
tied to a 218 notice.
It's not a federal case. It shouldn't be. It should be a state.
Where was this, Glen?
It's a state court.
Glenwood? Glendale,
Glendale, okay, I didn't know where Glenwood was. Oh, except it's over here.
over by Pasadena.
Yeah, I know where Glendale is.
Huh.
So it's starting, and we'll keep an eye on it. I just became aware of this through an ARPA meeting earlier this week, but and the question is what we can do about it. You know,
So this could, if this court case did go the wrong way, this could be fixed at the state legislature, though.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can count on them to take care of it.
They like anything related to more taxes. They love that. Yeah. They would have to go, modify 218.
Well, yeah, it would probably go to the voters at some sort of a referendum.
And I suspect for firefighting, you know, we do a coalition, water agencies and firefighting folks in cities and counties that are running these things. But all of that's gonna cost money to do it.
Problem is while you focus maybe an effort to deal with this one issue for Prop 218, once you open that door, you'll see a lot of special interests start trying to dump other things into that.
That basket, yeah.
Ends up being something that no one ever follows.
You make a very good point.
Pellet level, at least the.
If it was a referendum, it would be safer than if it was, an initiative can only be about a single subject. You can't add on to it. But a referendum could probably be several things. I'm not sure. They could say, well, it's generally for parks or generally for water. I got to think about that.
This requires a constitutional amendment.
Yeah.
Hey, Richard, you have one more thing?
Just a quick note, these items, my goals and evaluation of my past goals, and a memo that I think you got by email from Nancy, are all part of, in 2 weeks, we'll do a closed section item on my evaluation.
And I think in Nancy's email, she said she wanted a response by the 8th. You haven't responded already?
I respond. I think we're supposed to, I didn't want to reply to all because it kind of creates a meeting already, so I just replied to her.
That's always
That's
a better
fine,
way to
yeah.
go.
If you reply to all of them, it's a Brown Act violation, I guess, daisy chain. You
Yeah.
get a communication going. Yeah.
That's what I did.
Okay. You could see the past and future meetings. We have one small closed session thing, so let's move out of open session into closed session.
Thank you, guys.
In the open session, nothing to report, meeting adjourned.
I'll come, probably.